So I'm going to be talking about 7-day anti-inflammatory diets to heal the brain, boost energy, and prevent disease. But we need to learn a bit about inflammation. Chronic inflammation is essentially the driving force behind the biggest killers today, causing over 50% of all deaths through strokes, heart disease, cancer, obesity, diabetes, and more. And the problem is set to grow persistently over the next 30 years. But the good news is what we eat plays a huge, crucial role in either fueling or lowering inflammation. So let me talk a bit about what inflammation is. Inflammation is essentially the language of your immune system. It is how your immune system signals that there's a problem. It's how your immune system actually kills pathogens. It's sort of like a flare in the middle of the ocean that calls for help from the remainder of the different types of your immune system in your body. So you have an initial reaction, something that is called the innate immune system. And then you have the adaptive immune system. So the signal goes to the adaptive immune system to call on specific members of your immune system to try and react to that. It's also the sort of way in which you kill pathogens, the way in which you neutralize certain elements that shouldn't be there, for example. It is absolutely critical for survival. So when people say inflammation is bad, inflammation isn't bad in the same way inflammation isn't good. Inflammation is just necessary for survival. It is basically how we have evolved, and it's essentially the imbalance of inflammation, too much where there shouldn't be, too little where there isn't enough. That's where you run into issues. Diet can be both pro or anti-inflammatory. So I'll go into a bit more about anti-inflammatory diets, but I also want to point to the fact that inflammation isn't just the product of your diet. Inflammation is also the product of poor sleep, a marker of the fact that you might have too much stress in your body as well, how much stress psychologically you endure every single day. It can also be a factor of loneliness. Loneliness actually causes more inflammation in your body. The lack of community, the lack of purpose, these are all things that can also drive inflammation, as well as environmental exposures. So inflammation isn't just one thing. There's not one thing that drives it or reduces it, but diet is one of these important levers that we can pull to mitigate against inflammation. I'll talk a bit about what an anti-inflammatory diet is. Let's talk about some of the studies that demonstrate the benefits of an anti-inflammatory diet. So these studies are a mixture of umbrella reviews, meta-analyses, and they show that the more anti-inflammatory a person's diet is, they tend to have lower risks of things like cancer. So that's not only individual types of cancer, so things like colorectal cancer or pancreatic cancer, but also overall cancer as well. So as well as the range of specific site-specific cancers, the overall risk of cancer reduces the more anti-inflammatory your diet. There's also a link with better mental health as well. So there is a meta-analysis with over 100,000 participants that found that people on pro-inflammatory diets have almost a 40% increased likelihood of being diagnosed with depression or displaying depressive symptoms compared to those on more anti-inflammatory diets. So a more pro-inflammatory diet is not only bad for mental well-being, from an anxiety point of view or a depressive point of view, it's also tied to high risk of schizophrenia as well. So pretty significant mental health associations there as well. Whether or not it's directly causing it, the jury is still out there, but there are some initial studies that were conducted about 5 or 6 years ago where they've demonstrated the efficacy of a diet being as efficacious as some medications for not just mild depression, but also moderate and severe depression as well. Better sleep. So a more anti-inflammatory diet, or the higher the amount of anti-inflammatory ingredients in your diet, this is again associated with better sleep and at least one sleep domain, particularly in terms of sleep efficiency and less wakefulness during the night. So if you're someone who suffers with sleep or is not getting enough sleep, this might be something to address if you haven't addressed the inflammatory or anti-inflammatory potential of your diet already. There is an association with less visceral fat. That I think is mainly due to the impact of overconsumption of energy. But there is a meta-analysis that showed that pro-inflammatory diets were linked to an increased waist circumference, better blood sugar. I mean, the list kind of goes on. People with more pro-inflammatory diets show higher levels of fasting blood sugar, insulin, and HbA1c. These are markers of your metabolic health and your risk of things like type 2 diabetes. There are problems with these kind of studies because the more inflammation in your diet, the higher it is linked to lack of fiber, lack of healthy ingredients, and probably excess of calories as well. So there are some issues with that, but there does appear to be a trend with more inflammation in the diet and poor blood sugar regulation. Lower pain, although again the evidence is considered low quality here and more research is needed. A meta-analysis of 7 randomized controlled trials showed that an anti-inflammatory diet can lower pain in rheumatoid arthritis patients compared to standard diets as well. So how on earth is this possible? How can food lower inflammation? Well, whole foods, especially plants in their whole form, are packed with compounds that directly lower inflammatory markers. So they actually directly reduce the inflammation. They increase your antioxidant defenses, so they can trigger what's called an hormetic effect, where the food or the food chemical goes into your cell and it elicits a mild response that leads to an overall anti-inflammatory effect. So something called the ARE is something that's triggered by brassica vegetables, so an antioxidant system. And they also have tons of fiber in as well. So when you have more fiber in your diet, it supports the gut microbiota, which increases these anti-inflammatory short-chain fatty acids and other gut-derived metabolites that lead to an overall anti-inflammatory picture by nourishing your colonic cells, improving those inflammation markers, and also signaling to your brain that everything's going all right in the digestive tract as well. It's also important to remember that the more of these plant foods in their whole form that you're introducing into your diet, it pushes out and removes those less healthy items that are actually pro-inflammatory. So you're going to have less of those processed meats. You're going to have less of those refined carbohydrates, the more of the good stuff that you're actually adding to your diet as well. Now, dietary components that are common to a westernized style dietary pattern, such as trans fats, that is largely out of the UK food chain or the supply chain, but it does still exist, and saturated fats predominantly. These increase inflammation via mechanisms such as the TLR4 expression, so that's toll-like receptor 4 expression, and by modulating the gut microbiome to be more pro-inflammatory as well. They, in excess, I don't want to say that you can never have a processed meat or a high saturated fat meat like a pork chop or something like that ever again, but in excess, they can lead to low-grade inflammation and increase the risk of chronic diseases as well. So again, there's a balance to be struck here, but certainly the more plants you have in your diet, the less inflammation there appears to be in terms of the picture and how we measure it. And that brings me on to my next question. How do we actually measure it? How do we measure the inflammatory potential of your diet? Well, in research, we use 2 main systems. There's something called the DII. This is referred to as the Dietary Inflammation Index or the Dietary Inflammatory Index. And this is based on theories and research about how nutrients should impact inflammation. It was introduced around 2009, and it scores 45 dietary components like macronutrients, vitamins, and spices based on their effect on inflammation. A higher DII score means a more pro-inflammatory diet, so anything in the positive above a score of 0, whilst a lower score, i.e. in the negative, that indicates a more anti-inflammatory diet. But it does have some issues. So we're using arbitrary nutrient amounts that lead to inaccuracies and missing important factors like flavonoids, for example. There is also another inflammatory index, and this is called the EDII. This is the Empirical Dietary Inflammatory Index, and this focuses on the inflammatory potential of food groups. And we're going to talk about specific foods in a bit, so stay tuned for that. So using the information from the DII and the EDII, what do you actually need to do? So you need to eat more of these particular types of foods. One is fruits and vegetables. These are particularly anti-inflammatory, and the ones that you want to focus your intentions around, you want to focus your diets around, your plates around, are berries, leafy greens, dark yellow vegetables as well, and cruciferous vegetables like broccoli. These are potently anti-inflammatory, and I'm going to give you some recipes to give you some inspiration about how you can get these into your diet every single day. I had this sort of mantra of like just one more. Can you add just one more fruit, vegetable, nut, or seed into your diet? And this is going to come up time and time again. I want to just heighten the sort of underline berries and dark green leafy vegetables, because berries have these flavonoids and anthocyanins that are uniquely antioxidant, and they're anti-inflammatory as well. They've been shown in studies to improve your brain health, improve your cardiovascular health. There is no reason why we shouldn't be consuming more berries. Fresh if they're in season, frozen if you can't get them in season. Dark leafy greens are phenomenal, particularly from the brassica vegetable family. They contain things like isocyanates, glucosinolates. There are all these other chemicals and metabolites of those sort of family of brassica vegetables that are uniquely anti-inflammatory, and they boost up your antioxidant responses as well. Healthy fats. So there's fruits and vegetables, that's one thing. The other thing you want to be getting to your diet is healthy fat. So extra virgin olive oil is something I have at least 2 to 3 tablespoons of every single day, either in cooking or as a dressing. Completely safe to cook. Avocados, nuts, and seeds. These are all healthy fats that contain these fatty acids that promote something called resolvins. So in the context of inflammation, you have inflammation, which is your immune system. It goes in, it destroys pathogens. It protects you from any sort of opportunistic microbes that are trying to take over or trying to cause a whole body sepsis, let's say. In the aftermath of inflammation, you have a bit of a mess. It's sort of like the emergency department comes in, deals with a car accident, extricates the individuals from the car, emergency services come in, and then they drive off and everyone's taken to the hospital or police station, wherever you need to go. But in the aftermath, you've got a mess. You've got debris everywhere. You've got broken road signs. You've got skid marks on the road and tires everywhere. It's a mess. That needs to be resolved. What good quality fats do, extra virgin olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds, they promote something called resolvins. So resolvins are sort of like what it says on the tin. They resolve the inflammation after the fact, after the mess that inflammation is created. So you need a balance of these two things. You need to promote resolvins to fix essentially what is the friendly fire, the damage that has been caused by inflammation, to ensure that you're not having any prolonged inflammation after inflammation has actually been around. So this is something that good fats and quality fats, avocados, monounsaturated fatty acids, can certainly help with as well. So that's fruits and vegetables. You've got your healthy fats, whole grains, brown rice, quinoa, oats. These are particularly good because of the fiber that they contain. Brown rice less so, but quinoa and steel cut oats, not the refined oats, and also plant matter, so fruits and vegetables, these also contain fiber. There are some special fiber subtypes that I'll talk about in a second, but fiber will increase the proliferation of your microbes that you require in your digestive tract that are going to be anti-inflammatory. It increases the mucus layer in between the center of your digestive tract and the gut lining, and you want a bit of a buffer there so any microbes or debris doesn't scratch off or cause inflammation on the actual lining of the intestinal tract. So that's super important. So fiber is going to be anti-inflammatory, and it's also going to support a healthy digestive system. And then the other thing are fats from oily fish. So fatty and oily fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines, these are fantastic for omega-3. And omega-3, particularly EPA and DHA, which is the longer chain omega-3s, these are wonderful for inflammation. We know that high dose omega-3 tablets are now being promoted for people who have atherosclerosis, because we know it's anti-inflammatory and it can reduce or dampen down the scarring effect of atherosclerosis. So omega-3s that you can get from oily fish are fantastic. And the other thing that I always love to talk about are spices and herbs. We've done a whole selection of different podcasts and videos on turmeric, ginger, garlic. We'll leave those in the show notes, or Mitch will put them somewhere up here so you can click through those as well. We've got tons of information on that, but trying to get as many herbs and spices into your diet will be wonderful. You also want to, this is the anti-inflammatory effect. reducing inflammation over here, you want to reduce the things that push your inflammation up. And the things that push your inflammation up include processed foods, so ultra processed foods that we've discussed before. These are foods that we know are pro-inflammatory. They're completely different from the whole foods that they've been derived from, often with the addition of synthetics like emulsifiers and fillers that can be detrimental to the gut. That might be one of the ways in which they are pro-inflammatory. You also want to be removing refined carbohydrates, so things like white bread or supermarket bread in general, pastries, cookies, sugary cereals, even cereals that are marketed as healthy. Those probably are just as bad as the culprits that they're trying to replace as well. These are pro-inflammatory because of the amount of sugar that they contain. Processed meats, bacon, sausages, hot dogs, ham. These again fall into that same category of ultra processed foods that often have a lot of fillers, things like nitrates as preservatives that we know are inflammatory. And the other thing that people probably don't really like to talk about as much because they enjoy it, and that's excessive alcohol. So not only is alcohol bringing in excess calories that doesn't really have a nutritive value to you, it doesn't have nutrients like vitamins and minerals, it doesn't have flavonoids, even though I know people love to talk about resveratrol and red wine. This is going to be hepatotoxic, so toxic to your liver. It's also going to be introducing excess calories. It's also detrimental to your gut. So we know alcohol can increase the likelihood of something called leaky gut, which is where the mucus lining within your digestive tract is eroded down, and then you get excessive perfusion of your large intestine of materials that shouldn't be entering into the bloodstream. Alcohol can disrupt that barrier, make the leaky lining more leaky, and that can introduce an inflammatory response on the other side of that bloodstream where your immune system kicks into gear. So excessive alcohol, or any alcohol actually, may cause this issue as well. Just a quick one. If you're enjoying this kind of content, you will love our free newsletter called Eat, Listen, Read. Every week, I send you a recipe that you'll absolutely love, something to listen to, something to read, sometimes something to watch, less than 3 minutes, and it will help you have a healthful, happier week. You can find that in the link down below. So if you want to try and reduce the inflammation of your diet, I've got 7 things that you can do across Monday to Sunday that represent one simple change to add more anti-inflammatory foods into your diet or reduce the inflammation potential of your diet as well. Day 1, what I want you to do is try out this breakfast that we've got here on the Doctor's Kitchen. There's loads of others there. You want to swap out your usual breakfast, whether it's granola, a sugary cereal, for a breakfast that's actually rich in plant protein and fiber. And why am I so excited about fiber? Well, I've told you, the more fiber in your diet, the more your microbes will thrive, the thicker that mucin layer, and the less inflammation it will produce, and actually it can have an anti-inflammatory potential. And protein is really important, particularly first thing in the morning, because that's satiating, which means you're less likely to snack on sugary or sugar-laden or refined carbohydrate-rich foods in the middle of the day. So you want to have something that's going to be satiating, full of fiber, full of protein. So a millet porridge with apple compote and almond butter. This is a great way of trying to get this into your diet. You've got the step-by-step images here. You can find this on the Doctor's Kitchen. We'll put the links down below as well. This is something I have at least once or twice a week. I usually mix up my breakfast, but this is anti-inflammatory, hence why we have this little thing over here. If you click on that, it'll tell you why this is anti-inflammatory. It's got a low score on the DII. So check that out on thedoctorskitchen.com. That's day 1. Day 2, I want you to swap out your lunch. So instead of having a sandwich, a grab and go, a meal deal, or wherever it might be, try and add a fiber-packed diversity bowl. What is a diversity bowl? It's something that I sort of made up a couple of years ago now. No, it was about a year and a half ago now, where I didn't have cooking utensils or cooking apparatus, appliances at my place of work. And I just wanted to create things that I could just throw into a bowl and I know we're going to be healthy for me. So a diversity bowl has a couple of elements. It's got like a fermented element to it. It's got a pulse element to it. It's basically high fiber. It's got a starchy vegetable, but again, that's actually high fiber, and it's something that your microbes love to munch on as well. It's also got enough protein for the obvious reasons that we want to make sure that we're getting enough protein. I've done another podcast episode on why protein is so important. So instead of that grab and go sandwich, try a diversity bowl. Again, you can find this. I mean, if you just look at that, you know that that's going to be healthy for you. You've got pomegranates in there. These are anti-inflammatory. You've got rocket. That's part of the brassica or arugula for American counterparts. That's got brassica vegetables in. Those anti-inflammatory chemicals. Lentils and pulses. These are going to be great for your gut microbes. And then we've also got some aged cheese in this one. That is going to be introducing live probiotics into your digestive tract to mingle with your existing microbes and those healthy fats from walnuts. Mix those together with a little dressing. I cooked these sweet potatoes in the air fryer just for ease. And you can find out a bit more about why these are anti-inflammatory as well. If you click on that button, it'll tell you why and what the evidence is around eating nuts every single day as well. So again, that's on the doctorskitchen.com. Just check out sweet potato, just type in sweet potato into the search bar and that will come up. Day 3, I want you to think about your dinner. So I'm not asking you to change everything over 24 hours. I'm just do little things every now and then. Just swap one thing at a time or choose one of these things out the 7 days to change. Stick with that for a month, let's say, and then add something else. Completely up to you. But day 3, let's say you want to do this in order. Swap out your big bowl of pasta, swap out your pizza, swap out a rich carbohydrate, paella or whatever rice and curry dish you might have, and instead try a hake poached in ratatouille. Now, why is this anti-inflammatory? Well, ratatouille, based on that French dish, is a gorgeous collection of different flavonoid and polyphenol-rich vegetables. You've got tomatoes, courgettes, you've got those yellow vegetables that I talked about in the courgette, peppers, onions. These have all got different types of fibers that are great for your gut microbes. They all come together beautifully. Slowly cooking that tomato actually releases a lot of those antioxidants that are locked in within that tomato. And then you've got a lovely piece of hake or whatever fish you like. You can even put tofu in if you're vegetarian or vegan. So this is super easy. It's one pan and you're adding so much diversity into your microbiota. Your gut microbes are going to absolutely love this. You've got step-by-step images here as well. And then if you wanted to click on why this is healthy, it's got 3+ fruit and vegetable portions. And I talked to you a bit about why this is so protective against DNA damage and improves your cholesterol levels as an added bonus as well. That's day 3. Day 4, you want to try and spice it up. So try a spice, whether it's turmeric or dried ginger to your meals. A really easy way is adding that into your overnight oats. I've actually got a recipe here for ginger and apple chia pudding. So the ginger here is going to be adding those anti-inflammatory spices. We've done a whole podcast episode, the one that Mitch has already linked to, which is all about the anti-inflammatory potential of ginger and the derivatives of ginger as well, the shea goals and ginger rolls. This is super simple to do. You can prepare it the night before and just add everything into the bowl. And then in the morning, you just top it with some extra yogurt or whatever you like, or some of those nuts and seeds, and it's delicious. Again, I have this at least once a week or so just to mix up my breakfast in the morning, and you can even print this if you wanted, and just share it with your loved one. So super easy, and something that you can just stick on your fridge as well. So check that out on the URL. I'll put that down below. And this is the printout here. So if you want to share it with anyone, just share it. Number 5, think about swapping your snacks. So day 5, instead of your usual snacks, whether that's one of those processed protein bars, whether it's a Snickers or a candy bar, something like that, try and swap that for just fresh fruit, a handful of nuts or yogurt with berries. You're going to be introducing those anti-inflammatory ingredients into your diet with ease. It's just so simple. Just whenever you think you're hungry, think to yourself, am I thirsty first off? Because thirst and hunger often get mixed up. And second of all, okay, I've established I'm hydrated enough. What can I do to satisfy my craving and reduce inflammation? nuts or seeds, or a handful of berries if you're close to your freezer. That's a great hack of introducing more anti-inflammatory diets into your everyday. Day 6. So let's say you're really steaming through. You've done your breakfast, you got your lunch, you got your dinner. What's day 6 about? Try and swap your drinks. So you want to swap your drinks that might be sugar sweetened beverages. It could be a Coca-Cola. It could be a cordial. I know iced tea is very popular. That's very, very sweet. Try and change that to a herbal tea or a green tea. Green tea, I think, is one of the best drinks that we have out there because it contains this incredible molecule called ECGC, or epigallocatechin gallate. It is a wonderful anti-inflammatory chemical. It's been shown to even improve weight as well. But if you really want to take it the extra mile, you could try the hidden veg green smoothie. Now, this is more of a savory smoothie rather than a sweet smoothie. But this has actually got some hidden anti-inflammatory vegetables in the way of spinach, as well as some courgette. It's got some banana in, so a little bit of sweetness there, and some of the chia. I'll go back to chia in a minute. But this is a lovely way of just getting some extra greens into your diet that could be anti-inflammatory as well. So a smoothie, I don't have smoothies every single day, but a smoothie could be something that it could be a nice way of introducing some of these anti-inflammatory ingredients into your diet. And day 7, I want you to think about doing something that is a little bit out the ordinary. Try and add a special fiber. Special fibers like chia, chicory, psyllium husk, teff. These are unique prebiotic-rich fibers that also have protein in that support your gut microbes in a way that is different to your standard fruit, vegetables, nuts, and seeds. So psyllium husk has been shown to reduce cholesterol levels. Psyllium has also been shown to improve constipation, and it's also been shown to boost up your gut microbes that are anti-inflammatory as well. So there's a special savory flaxen chia seeded crackers. We make this all the time, and we have this with hummus as something to dip into, or some lovely natural yogurt, if you eat yogurt, or just on their own, to be honest, as well. Super simple to make. You just add all the ingredients together with a bit of water and oil, flatten it out on the tray, and then bake it at a very low temperature for about an hour or so. And it hardens, and you just flake it off into barks and then bake it again just to make sure it's completely dry, and then store that in an airtight container. This is a great snack. It's a great, easy way of introducing the chia, the fiber, the protein that we know that your body would absolutely thrive on as well. And if you're looking for a bonus, so day 8, I would change your bread. I've done a whole video on supermarket breads that you can watch right here about why these are pro-inflammatory, why they are ultra-processed, and why you need to swap them and what you can swap them for. Check it out right there.